everybody, to another fantastic episode of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast. I am one of your hosts this week, Wrestling Chris G, and on the other line with me is the man that only revolted on me maybe about 3 times in my whole lifespan with him. It's good old Dougie Fresh. Dougie, my man, how you doing?
You think only three, huh?
I think about three. Yeah, three
Eh,
major ones. I mean, Pikachu in this episode held back nothing when it came to Ash.
well, but that's kind of Ash's fault because Pikachu's the type of Pokemon to not hold back anything, regardless. So,
True.
like,
I mean, he
and that's when he's on your side. So, I mean, when he's being a bastard,
and I'm just gonna throw out there if Ash had Pikachu in its Pokeball, he he wouldn't have lost his damn Pikachu. That would have been my first thing from Professor Oak. Well, did you have Pikachu in its Pokeball?
Well, yeah, but
No.
I think Oak realized that ship sailed before they left Pallet for the first time.
Yeah, I think so too. So how are you doing, man? I feel like we say this almost on all recordings. Well, actually, no, we didn't really take a week off. We're only a day off today because wife gave me husband duties yesterday. So we're
It was
record
fun.
we're recording on a Wednesday.
It's occasions like this that I like to walk people through the timeline of events, and I'm not. No, I don't. I'm not attempting to throw shade in any aspect at all. She's just reporting what happened. Um, so I reached out and just to make sure that we were recording, and you said yeah. Um, to originals. So I was like, all right, cool. That's almost like a day off. Um, I was getting ready. I was wrapping some stuff up, and I was like, all right. Oh, and you said yeah, and then I said 8 o'clock, and you said, oh, probably about 8:30. We're heading out for a sec. I'll let you know. And I said, all right, bet. I was getting some stuff wrapped up, and I was about ready to click on to Pokemon.com to watch the episode, and I got tomorrow 8 p.m. with the little exhausted face. So I misread that originally as the little emoji with the tissue. So I was like, oh damn, he caught the flu real quick.
Oh man. Yeah, went to well it's a funny story, okay? So I'm going to give you my side. So we're on our way. I'm sure my wife would have a different story, but I take when you were texting, we were just heading out. We're on our way over to Home Depot. We had to get some soil for our backyard. So I was like, okay, this shouldn't take us that long. And while we're on our way there, the wife is talking about all these extra things that she wants kind of done. I'm kind of putting two and two together. And I'm like, well, I'm not recording today, am I? So we get to the store, we get the supplies, and we put it back in the car. And then I'm sitting there talking to her and she's still talking about all this stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna message Doug and just tell him that we'll record tomorrow. I was like, we got nothing going on tomorrow, right? And she's like, no, not that I could think of. All right, so I was like, okay, bet.
Not that
So
I could think of.
so
It's a
I
dangerous question.
I messaged you. I was like, so dot 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 with the exhausted face. I was like, tomorrow? And you were like, yeah, that works. And so we left it at that. Fast forward, I actually got home on time in order to record with you, but I was like, okay, well, I haven't watched these episodes yet. With me telling you in advance, I was like, I know you probably haven't watched the episodes yet. So I was like, you know what? What? I was like, babe, I was like, are we laying out this soil today? She's like, no, we're getting some rain, so it's probably not best that we lay it out like right now. I was like, all right, bet.
Right.
So I was like, so this past weekend, I threw a little bit of shade on her because I paid for an event for Pokemon Go, which I was not able to really participate in It was Pokemon Go Fest 2022. And I was able to complete the majority of the stuff that I would need to like really kind of go out for, but I still had some lingering tasks that I needed to do. So I,
Mhm.
I, I told her, I was like, okay, well, since I'm not recording, I'm just gonna head out and go Pokemoning for a little bit. So left out, went Pokemoning, and I get a phone call like 10 minutes in. And she's like, "What do you want from White Castle?" It's like, the normal. I was like, just some cheeseburgers. I was like, maybe some French fries. I was like, that's about it. And for those of our southern listeners, White Castle is like our crystals to you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, like just little mini bite-sized burgers. Um,
Well.
well,
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was about to say, I was like, I can get like one if I want to savor it, I can eat it in two bites. But I was like, those are
Right. Yeah.
bite-sized burgers. But
Yeah. No, you're right.
so um, so she's like, okay, I'm gonna order it on DoorDash. I was like, well, White Castle's just right down the road. I was like, why don't you just go and get it? She's like, I don't feel like going over there and getting any. She's like, do you want the no pickle on yours? I was like, of course. I was like, I don't fuck with White Castle pickles on my burger because for some reason the pickles just run right through me more than the burger does. So she she's on the website and not even using the application. So she ordered the food on the website of DoorDash, right?
Mhm.
And DoorDash, for some reason, when it comes to White Castle, does not give you the option to take off any pickles. If you're going to order their burgers, you're going to get the original burgers. So the turnaround to that is you can talk to the driver. Now, my wife did not know that you can't talk to the driver if you're on the actual website and that you have to actually be on the application to message them. She forgot the password to her account.
Mm.
So I was like, well, babe, I was like, you don't really need a password when it comes to DoorDash. Just log in with your phone number. By the time she figured all that out, and I'm still out Pokemoning. So while I'm talking to her trying to figure this out, I can't Pokemon. I can't do my Pokemon thing, so I'm a little frustrated. so so I'm walking her through. She finally gets the application going. She had to download it, do all the jazz, log in, blah blah blah. And by the time she was able to get on there, a blue car I guess pulled up into the driveway, and it was the order. So all the burgers had the pickle on it. So that's how long it tells you I was on the phone with her. So she's like, "Fuck." She's like, "Okay." She's like, "So all of these have pickles on it." She got a crave case. She's like, let me see what I can do. I was like, all right, bet. So I hang up with her. I get a phone call literally probably like 3 minutes later. And she's like, so they gave me a slight credit on the order. I can use that to get you like 10 burgers and a fry if that's what you want. And I was like, yeah. I was like, just make sure it has no pickle. So she's like, okay, good.
Pickle.
Yeah, no pickle. So she gets on there and she's like, she's on the app. She's like, all right, so how do I talk to the damn driver? I see a driver's been assigned. I was like, there should be a phone call button and a chat button. And she's like, all right, I see the chat button. So she text messages the person. About 3 minutes go by, and the guy's not messaging her back. She's like, he's not messaging. And I was like, okay. I was like, there should be a call button, right? And she's like, yeah. I was like, hang up with me and call. And she's like, all right. Hangs up. I get a phone call like 45 seconds later. He forwarded my phone call. I was
Yeah.
like, and then she's like, oh, he just messaged me. She's like, he said that he'll ask them for the no pickle when he gets there. And then all of a sudden it goes, you've been reassigned to Ricardo. And she's like, what does this mean? You've been reassigned. She's like, they're still gonna know the no pickle. I was like, no. I was like, that just means that we're being difficult. He didn't want to handle a difficult customer. So 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 he gave up on that order and they reassigned it to a guy named Ricardo. So she's like, well, is he still gonna know? I was like, no, you gotta message him. So she messages him, and he's like, yeah, he's like, I get this all the time. I'll make sure there's no pickle. And then I was like, is that all you need, babe? And she's like, yeah. And then all of a sudden, I get a phone call like 2 minutes later. It's been reassigned again to a guy named
Oh
Alex.
my god.
I was like, really? I was like, at this point, I was like, I'll just take the damn pickle off of the burgers that we have at the house. She's like, no, no, no. She's like, I've been doing this way too long now. We're gonna get it the way that you want it. So she messages Alex and is like, please do not, um, release this order. This is how we want it. We just want no pickle on the damn burger. This fucking pickle is putting us in a pickle. So, so, and mind you, I'm supposed to be out Pokemoning, and I'm getting no Pokemoning done. So you can understand my frustration because I'm at the park and I can't do shit. So so she finally, this Alex dude goes, all right, yeah, I got you. I get this a lot. So he puts the order through and he finally delivers the order. And I got to do like 20 minutes of Pokemoning. And as I'm doing the Pokemoning, and it's not just me at the park, there was about maybe about 8 other people that were at the park too. But all of a sudden, a cop comes into the parking lot of the park that I'm in and starts flashing his lights at everybody. He didn't talk to me, but he flashed his lights indicating the park is closed, the sun is down, you guys need to leave. So I'm like,
Park is
son,
closed.
yeah, the parks over here close at dusk. So
Oh.
once the sun goes down, you can't be at the park. So so he flashed the lights at everybody and I'm like, son of a bitch. I was like, I spent probably about 45 minutes of my hour of to go Pokemoning on the phone trying to figure out how to not have a pickle on my damn burger. Awesome. So so I'm sitting there and I'm on my way home and I get home and I look directly at my wife and I'm like, next time just keep the damn pickle on there. And I was like, but tomorrow, which was today of this recording, I was like, while you're working, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna take the kids, I'm gonna pack them in the car, and we're gonna go Pokemon. She's like, okay. So that's what I did. I got about 2 hours of Pokemoning in with my kids in the car and my daughter in the back seat listening to everything Coco Melon and the Gummy Bear song for 2 whole hours while my son's in the back rapping to Machine Gun Kelly. And I don't want to be berated online. Yes, he listens to Machine Gun. And yeah, that was my day yesterday and today, outside of recording.
Oh, I have one major takeaway from all of it. All of what you just said.
I'm sure I know what it is, but what is it?
This whole damn thing is your own damn fault.
I don't like White Castle pickles.
The whole damn thing is your own damn
I
fault.
can fuck with McDonald's and Burger King if they put pickles on my burger, fine. But White Castle already goes through you and comes out the other end. The like within like 2 hours of you eating it, that pickle just speeds things up, bro.
Eat the pickle. It's how they cook the burgers.
Yeah, for real. So but yeah, that is my story for today before we get into the Pikachu. And actually, I have something for the next episode that we're gonna be going over. So hey, we
Hey, look
got
at that.
we got two story times. But today we are doing Pikachu Revolts. It is episode 88 in the Pokemon series, and this episode premiered March 4th, 1999, and February 5th, 2000 here in the US. And the Japanese translation for this episode is The Mystery of the Missing Pokemon.
I mean,
I like
that's a fine title, but it really doesn't. Um, why are they missing? You know, like there's been about 20 episodes where Pokemon go missing. You know, it's
for real. So I do have I am opening up today a Sword and Shield Chilling Rain booster pack, which you will get the code for this for your Pokemon Live game. Well, this card says Pokemon Trading Card Game Online, but I'm sure it's still good for your Pokemon Live accounts. So it is a black card for this booster pack. That means it is a dud pack
oh,
for
shit.
this one. So we can't win them all. We've had a few good weeks of some good ones, but this one not so much. So, but other than that, Doug, are you ready to jump on into this week's episode?
You know it.
All right. Oh. By the way, real quick, Doug, you guys are gonna have a stage for the roast. I
You
just
didn't build something, did you?
Yeah, well, me and my wife, we got some pallets, and we
I see.
and we built a stage, and
I see.
and you have a nice little backdrop as well with a spotlight. So it's gonna look nice. It's gonna look legit. So just wanted to throw that out there, and I know it's not really gonna matter. I'm not sure if I'm gonna post the roast on this page or not. I'm still going back and forth. I guess it really depends on what jokes are said. So I'm actually about 90% done with my speech, and I hope that people like it. I haven't done yours yet. Though. You're one of the few. I haven't done yours and one of my brother-in-laws, but I'm pretty much done with the speeches.
That's all well and good, but it's going to be null and void when you have to respond to everything people have said, and it's not going to be relevant to your actual speech.
No, I don't have to respond to what they said. There's a certain way that I wrote the speech, so you'll see when I do it. I actually did it pretty strategically, so no matter what is said, I have some back talk. And for you, the only reason I haven't finished yours is because depending on what jokes you choose to say for yours, you're going to get one of three speeches. So we will see. I'm in the process of the third one for you only because you're the host. So
Hmm.
so we will see. But I'm not mean. I'm not mean. So don't worry about that.
You better not be, because you brought this on your damn self.
I'm not mean. All right, everybody. Pikachu revolts. You got your episode up, bro?
Yep.
All right. So I will start, and we are heading over to Meekin Island, and Ash is in search of his next gym badge, the second one. So he, Ash is sitting on top of Lapras, as so is Tracy and Misty, and Ash is just being a typical almost preteen. He's like, oh, I'm hungry. When are we gonna eat? And Pikachu's like, I'm hungry too. And um, Tracy's like, oh, well, there's Mandarin Island straight ahead. And Ash is like, Mandarin Island. And he grabs the binoculars and he looks over. He's like, that doesn't look like an island. And Misty grabs the binoculars. She's like, it looks like a bunch of giant buildings floating in the middle of the ocean. And that's when Tracy kind of educates everybody and it's like it's a island with a bunch of big buildings with skyscrapers and theaters and all sorts of neat stuff. So basically, kind of like downtown Chicago or New York City in the middle of the ocean. And
Hopefully, with less people getting,
I
stuff.
know,
Um,
but
and
Misty's
but Ash doesn't give a Oh yeah, no, Misty spoke first. Go ahead.
Yeah, Misty's kind of like she's like, well, it's not very tropical, so she wants this whole trip to basically be like a mini vacation. She just walked for almost a year with Ash, as he got all of his badges and stuff, and even when they tried to take a vacation before the Pokemon League, Ash kind of made them get up and walk around and do other stuff and do other things besides training. So they couldn't even really relax during all of that. So she wants a vacation, but it doesn't really seem like she's really getting that vacation.
Her and Brock didn't have to go with him while he was training.
They didn't have
Um,
to, but I think if they weren't there, Ash probably would have placed probably either last or second to last place in that Pokemon League. Let's
wouldn't
be
even
real.
gotten there.
No, for real. He would have slept through the whole thing. So but yeah, Ash is sitting there. He's like, as long as they have somewhere cheap to eat, I'm all good. And they're all like, yeah, let's go. And then from here, Doug, we're gonna go over to some returning fellows in the Pokemon series. Doug,
Yeah, this kind of threw me because that was usually about the time where you would hit up
theme song.
the title card, but they kind of pulled the okey doke because you go to like a command center and you hear some hopefully some familiar voices and the female I mean
You can tell
yeah
who they are.
it's Butch and Cassidy, and Cassidy's like, well, look who came to visit. And and Butch is like, it's that kid with that Pikachu. Um and Cassie's like, it's payback time, and we've just got it's shots of basically under their noses. So I mean, unless I mean,
Unless you
you know
didn't
their
see those,
voices.
yeah, you know their voices and you know their hairstyles. So unless you didn't see their one-off episode in the Kanto region, you don't know who they are. But I mean, if you've seen it, you know exactly who they are. It's the smarter members of Team Rocket.
Well, I think that can be discussed the course of this episode. Um,
Well, they are smart. I mean, if it wasn't for freaking Jesse and James, which we'll get into, I think they probably would have gotten away with this.
well, you're probably right.
Yeah.
So then we get the title sequence or the title card, and then we return Lapras to her Pokeball, and um, they're not even fully turned around, and they hear a big
Commotion.
fracas going on off screen. We've got a Magnemite, a Grimer, and a Voltorb looking like they're advancing on some trainers, and by the trainer's speech, it seems like it's their Pokemon because they're like, "Get back in your Poke," and then the Pokemon are
Revolting.
fighting back. Yeah, and because it's a kid show and because it's Ash's show, he's like, "Come on, Pikachu, let's go stick our noses in this."
And
So they
as
go running.
oh sorry.
So they go running, and as soon as Pikachu crosses certain line, I mean, it's not like it's marked like a first down line in football. It's just they're running, and all of a sudden, just this blue light flashes over Pikachu, and he stops dead in his tracks. And Ash is like, "Yo, what's up?" And Pikachu just turns around, and he's got some shadows across his face. He's basically just got the meanest look he's ever had. I mean, worse than when Ash first got him, and he was just not doing anything. Because at least then he was just being a smartass. This is like there's some intent in his eyes, and Ash
Yes.
is like, "Oh shit!" And all of a sudden, then Togepi jumps out of Misty's arms, and she's got the same look. And even with that look on her face, Togepi's still just adorable because it's Togepi. Um,
I'm mad at you, Misty.
and Ash is like, "Yo, what's up?" And Pikachu's like, "Have some this," and he just knocks everybody back. and
One big
Pikachu,
thunderbolt, just boom. I'm like, damn. I was like, they
bigger than
held
some of the
nothing
shit
back.
he's used on, bigger than some of the stuff he's used on Team Rocket, even.
For real. And from here, after Pikachu does his thunderbolt, Togepi and Pikachu turn around and they start walking towards the Magnemite and Grimer and Voltorb. And Ash is like, Pikachu, get back here. And all four of the Magnemite come over and they surround Ash. And Ash is like, get away from me. And these Magnemite just full blown thunder shock all of them. And they're like, "Oh my god!" And Tracy and Misty are like, "Oh no!" And Ash is like, "Ah, you're not gonna stop me!" And he must be so used to Pikachu's electricity because all four. I'm telling you, as a grown man, if I'm getting shocked by four Magnemite, I'm going to be on the ground. And Ash is sitting there and he's like, you're not getting away from me. And he starts walking towards Pikachu. Pikachu has that look on his face again. And then all of a sudden, here comes Voltorb. And Voltorb is like, ha ha ha, you stepped into my trap and uses the explosion attack. And from there, once all the smoke settles, all the Pokemon are gone. Doug?
Yeah, so we get the original two trainers that were fighting with the Voltorb and the Magnemite, and they're like, "My Voltorb's gone, my Magnemite's gone." Um, uh, Ash is looking around and he starts getting some tears in his eyes, and he just shouts out, "Pikachu!" And
This
obviously,
is
I'm
where
not
the
gonna.
title sequence should have came in, right there. Like
Yeah,
they
I mean, you could have waited in this episode. I mean, it's only 3.5 minutes in, or that's almost four, but that's still not bad.
no, not at
Um,
all.
and then this is when Officer Jenny rolls up, and like, oh, our Pokemon were acting really weird, and Pikachu doesn't usually have this, doesn't usually push back that much. I mean, that was totally uncharacteristic. And Ash just grabs Officer Jenny by the shoulders and the Pikachu's gone. And this is when, if this wasn't a kid show, she should smack him and say, "Get a hold of yourself." Um,
Like
maybe in
just
the
settle
Japanese
down.
dub. Maybe in the
Yeah.
Japanese dub.
I should
Basically,
watch some of these episodes in the Japanese dub, like for real.
and that's kind of what Officer Jenny says. Calm down. And then Tracy's one that can be a little more level-headed because none of his Pokemon were caught up in any of this. He's like, when we first got here, there were some other Pokemon acting weird as well, and now they've gone. They were gone in the explosion, and Officer Jenny's like, oh, we've had some reports in the past few days of Pokemon that have stopped listening to their trainers, and they turn and attack, and then they vanish out of nowhere, and you know, get a Ghastly pops up, and
I'm starting to think that all Ghastlies are just funny because I the way that they portray Ghastly, it's like when a Pokemon dies and their spirit becomes like a Ghastly or something. They're just like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna have fun the rest of my life." Well, I'm gonna live forever, so I'm gonna have all sorts of fun, and I get to transform into a Hunter and then a Gengar, and then later on
shoot.
a Mega Gengar. Just saying.
So after Ash and the crew kind of explain things, we go to the Pokemon Center.
The police center.
Oh shit! I guess I didn't. I guess I just thought they were one and the same. Um, and they're on the phone with Professor Oak, and um, he's basically I mean, we don't get the whole conversation, thank goodness, because we don't need to hear the same thing, 3 times. But
Professor
you
Oak
know,
just looks at him and he's like, "You don't know where to start looking, do you, Ash?" And Ash's like, "Nah, I guess not." He's like, "I guess not is right." Wait,
yeah, he does the same look back at him.
Professor Oak has no chill. I guess not, right? He's like, what he should have said was, you should have had Pikachu in this Pokeball.
Well, that ship sailed. I mean,
I
that's
know.
that's extra salt at this point.
So Professor Ogi's like, now for your Pokemon. It sounds like something from the outside is controlling all of the Pokemon's behavior. And Officer Jenny's like, well, you think so? She's like, I think it's some type of psychic attack. And then I'm gonna kind of sum this up because we don't gotta go word for word. But Officer Jenny, I guess before any of this, was under the impression that Ghastly, since it's strong against psychic type Pokemon and it's not being affected by whatever's going on, that she can use her Ghastly to try to find out where these Pokemon are. And that there's something out there using some type of psychic attack that's getting these Pokemon to act this way. And we have the funny scene of Ghastly kind of popping up into the video. Professor Oak's like, "Oh, there is a Ghastly there," and she kind of goes through the rigmarole that I just said. And after they get off the phone with Professor Oak, Ash turns around to Tracy and he's like, "Who did this to Pikachu? I want my Pikachu back." And Tracy's, being the teenager he is, he's like, "Ash, try to take it easy, will you? I'm just trying to figure things out just like you are." And Ash is like, "Oh." He's like, "I'm sorry, Tracy, but I've never seen Pikachu just look at me like that, Doug."
Well, second time in the episode, this kid should have gotten smacked. Not just because he's being a dick, but just needs to get a hold of himself. Um,
Well, how would you be if you lost your dog like that? You'd be the
he come
same way,
back.
wouldn't you?
He come back. Nobody feeds him like we do.
True. True.
He's not gonna get fed like that anywhere else. I'm dead confident on that. Um, Not enough to test it, but just if he ever were to get out, that'd be my first thought. Be back.
he'll be
Um,
he'll be back.
so yeah, Ash is then we flash back to him getting that look, and he's like, "That's some deep shit." And then Misty starts to kind of break down because Togepi's under the same spell or whatever, and she's got a little bit more to be worried about because that's just a baby. All she really knows is Misty, Ash, Brock, a little bit of Tracy at this point, and Pikachu. Um, so she's understandably shaken, and Ash is basically like doing his standard Ash Ketchum pump up. We're gonna go figure this out, and I know that if I go with you, I can be a help, and it's not just because it's my show and all this stuff. Um,
But then we bounce from them right over to our good old Team Rocket, who has finally joined us in the city.
it's the I guess for our purposes, the OG Team Rocket.
Yes, Jesse and
Um,
James.
and so they're looking up at this big tower, and they're happy to be in name of the city. It's an orange.
What's up?
The name of the city.
Oh, Mandarin.
Yeah. So they call it the Big Orange, and James is kind of being a tourist. He's like, "Can we take a guided tour?" And Alf has to like pop up and be like, "Hey, we've got a job to do. We're not here to see the sights. We're here to catch Pikachu." And he scratches them, so he can scratch them, but nobody can slap Ash.
Yes. Meow. Misty's not gonna go over there and just start smacking. And she had enough of that over in season one. We don't want to repeat that over here in season two.
So obviously, Jessie isn't happy being scratched. She never is. And then this is when Meowth gets hit by the same frequency. Got Pikachu and Togepi, and
and he
the
just
other
starts
Pokemon.
running away,
He yeah
like a field cat.
on all fours. He wasn't running like he has run in the past. He was in full Meowth mode.
And
And credit to Team Rocket. At least they chase after him at this point.
for real, well, um, Ash didn't really have that choice. He had an
Well,
explosion go, and then all the Pokemon were gone.
that's
So
true. That's fair.
so they chase after Meowth, and they chase Meowth over to this big building that has a satellite on the very top. And Meowth goes and climbs into this little hole that's on the side of the building. And James is like, Jesse, look there. And they look at the satellite. And they're like, what is this place? And we go inside, and down the tube goes Meowth. And Cassidy and Butch are coming down on some type of pillar. And from here, Meowth is like, I am here to serve you. They're like, a talking Meowth? They're like, could it be? And it's like right on cue. Team Rocket is coming down the same pipe that Meowth went down at the same time, like goofballs. and
Yeah.
they and they get down. They're like, oh, it's our old friends. And they're like, Cassidy and Botch? And he's like, yeah,
I
my name is
audibly
Boo.
I audibly laughed out loud the first time. I was like, he called him Botch.
He's like, my name is Butch.
He called him Botch.
He's
Oh, I
like,
couldn't
there's
help
all,
myself.
and Jesse's like, there's only room for one Team Rocket. And Butch is like, then prepare for trouble. And then Jesse and James are like, you're the ones who should prepare for trouble. And Cassidy's like, you don't even know the motto. And then they go through the motto. And you know what? Just for saying sake, because we didn't do it the first time, I want to say what the motto is. So James is like, you just made your trouble double. And then Butch is like, he's like, I'm the one who has the next line. And Jesse goes, to protect the world from devastation. And then Cassie's like, to infect the world with devastation. And then James, of course, does his normal line. And then Butch comes in and he's like, to blight all people in every nation. Jesse does her line. Cassidy comes through and she's like, the goodness of truth and love. And Butch comes back and he's like, wrath to the stars above. And they're like, Jesse, Cassidy, Jesse, James, Butch. I would have been laughing if James was just like, botch.
Botch.
And Jesse's like, Team Rocket, blast off at the speed of light. And then Cassidy comes back and she's like, Team Rocket circling Earth all day and night. And James is like, surrender now or prepare to fight. And Butch is like, surrender to us now or you'll surely lose the fight. Which, you know what? I mean, I know we're used to Jesse and James, but Cassidy and Butch's motto actually makes sense as opposed to Jesse and James.
But I think that's the bit. I mean, because you kind of hit on something um, earlier when you kind of alluded to the fact that Cassidy and Butch are easily the more competent duo.
Yeah.
So obviously their version of the motto. I'm not going to say it's the right version because we haven't actually heard the official like Team Rocket motto like from somebody that's not like involved in a story or anything. Like it would have to come from like one of Giovanni's grunts. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you idiots! This is the official motto. This is officially signed off on by Giovanni, and here it is. So it would make sense that Cassidy and Butch's,
Motto kind of makes a
they're
little bit more sense.
absolutely, yeah.
So Jesse, she basically kind of gives up and she's like, you know what? Fuck it. She's like, we say it just as good as you guys do. And Cassidy just jumps in and she's like, so Jesse, rumor has it you're getting kicked off of Team Rocket. She's like, it's just a rumor, of course. And James just runs in. He's like, did you hear any rumors about me? And freaking Jesse takes James and she's like, I bet she's the one who started the damn rumor. She's like, I thought you two were still in jail. And Butch comes back and just throws it right in their face. Oh, the boss came down to the station himself and bailed us out. James is like, he paid in person? The boss never does anything like that for us. And, and they're like, we're on the same team, but in different leagues. And Meowth goes running over and starts um, purring over at Cassidy's leg. And James is like, Meowth, don't forget who your real friends are. And Butch is like, Meowth isn't the only one that we've made friends with. They point over to a group of a bunch of Pokemon that are over there, and they're like, oh my gosh. And I'm not going to go line for line anymore, but they basically allude to how Jesse and James wouldn't know how to capture all of these Pokemon if their lives depended on it. And then Cassidy and Butch do the stereotypical villain thing and go over their villainy plan. Doug.
Yeah. So, um,
Oh, I kind of I
you
went over a part.
jumped ahead a little bit. So, they do the line about you wouldn't know how to catch that many Pokemon in a million years, and Jesse's like, no, but we know how to catch that many Pokemon right now, and they throw out, um, let's see, Arbok and Lickitung and Weezing and Victory Bell, and pretty much as soon as they come out, because they're like right. And well, first of all, Victory Bell, of course, eats James because that's the bit.
That's the bit.
And
I love you
and
so much, James.
Butch snaps his fingers, and down from the ceiling comes a Drowsy, and he's hooked up to a couple of electrodes, and
Which are connected to the satellite that they saw above about 4 or 5 minutes ago.
he starts doing his, his dancing and his shimmying, and they're like, "What's he doing?" And just is like, "It doesn't matter what he's doing. Make sure that get these two out of our way." And you can see that um, Team Rocket's Pokemon is already starting to kind of feel the effects. They've got like heavy eyelids and stuff,
Yes.
and um, I was like, why aren't you moving? And um, she's Jesse is like, you got to do what I tell you. She's like shaking her face, oh, and all of a sudden, you know, their Pokemon fully snap, and they've got the same look on their faces that the rest of the group does. And um, Cassidy's like, you know, our method that we created is way more
Efficient.
uh, efficient, basically, than using brute force. And basically, we find out that the device that's hooked up to Drowsy amplifies his hypnotic waves
Yes.
and broadcast it through the antenna, which you pointed out when we first saw the building when Meowth went through the tunnel. And um, Jesse kind of plays the role of the audience if they're not catching up. Drowsy's Drowsy's controlling the Pokemon, and
Oh
Butch is
no.
laughing. He's like, "So now that both of you know the secret, now we have to say goodbye." And they basically turn their own Pokemon against them, and Jesse and
Cassidy and
James,
Butch start using Team Rocket or Jesse and James Pokemon against them.
Jesse and James kind of hug each other and they're screaming because they're kind of cornered. And then you get the who's that Pokemon, and it's Kangaskhan. Why is it Kangaskhan? There wasn't even a Kangaskhan in that crowd.
There wasn't a Kangaskhan in that crowd. The next episode doesn't have a Kangaskhan. I have no idea why Kangaskhan is in this episode other than to mess with 9-year old. Well, when did this episode come out? Oh, yeah, not 9-year old me back in the day.
It,
I'm just like, I know that Pokemon. At this point, if they really wanted to challenge me, give me some Pokemon that's on the Orange Islands that we're getting ready to start introducing into the series. Like, don't give me
like
any of the original 150. I mean, we're done with the Poke Rap now. I know who Kangaskhan is.
saw that episode.
For real. So, but yeah, we go straight from the Who's That Pokemon with it being Kangaskhan, and Jesse and to a scene where Jesse and James are waking up inside of the police office, and Ash and Ghastly and Officer Jenny are waking them up, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's a nightmare!" And Ash is like, "No, sorry, it's real." And James is getting tended to by Misty, and James is like, "Don't be so rough, will you?" And Misty gives James a really, really mean look, like, "Are you really gonna tell me how to do this? I know how to do this." And James is like, "Never mind, I'll be quiet." So submissive, even to a 10-year-old. Come on, James.
That's a guy that knows his place. Uh,
And Misty pats him right on the wrist that she just bandaged up, which kind of questions me what happened to damn Team Rocket when they went off screen. Like, Jesus. But she pats him on the bandaged wrist, and James is like, "Ah, that hurts." And Tracy's like, "Yeah, I think that hurt, Misty." Doug,
like we realized we haven't given Tracy a line to say in a minute. We should
just draw his face in for a second.
we'll just throw him in there. So basically, Jesse is like, how did James and I end up here? And Ash is like, Ghastly found y'all in the street, and this is when Officer Jenny's kind of on some bullshit. She's like, I wonder if there's a connection between the Pokemon acting strangely and disappearing, and then you two showing up. And Jesse, rightfully so, is like, oh well, fuck y'all then. And Ash is like, yeah, how come Meowth isn't with you? And that's dumb because he saw how whatever affected, whatever's going on affected Pikachu and Togepi. So he
Well,
should.
he's not in his right state of mind. I mean, when you think of Team Rocket, he probably thinks that they're behind it. So where the hell is Meow? He doesn't at this point. He doesn't know that they're not controlling it.
Out, but James starts walking over and he's like, Meowth's gone too. Meowth's gone. He was affected just like the other Pokemon. And
And they start to
Ash,
spry.
Ash immediately is like, who's they? And he gets, tries to put bass in his voice, but he's fucking 10, so it doesn't work. And um, this is when Tracy, again, is filling in gaps that don't need to be filled in. He's like, you mean your Pokemon were taken too? It's like, well, no, what? Anyway. Um, and this is when, like you alluded to, Jessie starts to kind of break down as well because, she won that Lickitung. Or no, she caught that Lickitung because it ate all the prizes for the um, beauty contest. And she's had um, Arbok since it was an Ekans. Um, and they start, because, they're human. They might be jackasses, but they're human. And Ash is like, oh, um, this is real. They're not faking this. And
They get asked the question again. So who has these Pokemon? And Jesse straight up goes, "You know what? Helping out the police will uh
ruin my perfect criminal record.
yeah, that's the word. Will ruin my perfect criminal record. So you know what? I guess what's lost is lost, and we'll just get going." And I'm gonna kind of paraphrase here a little bit, but Ash kind of sits there. He's like, "What kind of trainers are you to give up on your Pokemon?" He's like, they took my Pikachu, and Missy's like, they have my Togepi. You guys, if you guys know who has these Pokemon, you need to help us, and we can get your Pokemon back too. And Jesse and James kind of look at each other, and they're like, helping out the police and the twerps this one time won't kill us, but I want our Pokemon back too. And they're like, all right, you know what? We know where the Pokemon are. So it's at this point that Team Rocket, Jesse, and James are now on the side of the police and the twerps. Doug?
And Ash is kind of dumb because when Jesse and James agree to help, he's like, "Ah, I knew you would come through." It's like you have spent how many hours fighting them, and now like just because Pokemon are involved, you're like willing to. Oh, I had faith in you. Bullshit. You were probably fighting them last month. But I mean, it's a kid show. There's only 10 minutes left in the. Well, it's less than that because of the Poke Rap. There's only like 8 minutes left in the episode. They gotta kind of hurry along. Um. So we're back at the what do you call this base, I guess,
Yeah, the
and
Team Rocket hideout.
we see a cart is being wheeled by Jesse and James, and they look right up at the security camera, and they're like, "You." Um, they're like, "We." Butch is like, "I can't believe they've come back," and um, they're like, "Yes, well, we have a little bit of a peace offering. We've turned over a new leaf, and
And
we
we
want to
want to
help
help you.
you." And James is like, just to prove there's no hard feelings, we brought you a little gift that we think is going to come in handy. And it's a big old um,
Basket.
crate of
Yeah,
Pokeballs.
yeah, big crate. I guess that's a better word. And Cassidy's like, we could use some Pokeballs. So they open the door, and Jesse and James wheel in the big crate of Pokeballs, and they're like, "Oh, we decided we'd like to be friends with you guys. Let's call a truce so we can be one big happy team Rocket." And James is overselling this because Cassidy's not buying this at all. She's like, this isn't like you two. And Jesse's like, well, maybe that's because there are more than the two of us than what you know. And they're like, that's right. And they push the cart over towards Cassidy and Butch, and out of the cart comes Officer Jenny, Ass, Tracy, and Misty, and they're just jumping out, and the cart goes crashing into the wall. And Officer Jenny's like, "You are under arrest, you Pokemon thieves!" And Ash is like, "Give me back my Pikachu!" And Missy's like, "Yeah, give me back my Togepi as well." And Tracy's like, "It's all over, guys," because Tracy doesn't have a cool line.
he doesn't. He didn't have a cool line. He didn't have a dog in the fight. None of his Pokemon got taken.
So it's at this point, and that Butch is like, well, let's see if all the Pokemon agree with that, shall we? And they go back, and you see a whole bunch of Pokemon, which at this point you would think their whole laboratory would be filled with a lot more Pokemon than there are, but it's basically all the Pokemon that were there before, including Team Rocket and Ash's Pokemon. And Tracy throws out the one good line that they're probably going to use a million times somewhere. Who's that Pokemon? And Ash jumps in, all character like, as he points his Dexter over at Drowsy, and it's like, Drowsy, the hypnotic Pokemon. It is said to feed on the dreams of its opponents. It's also known for its
Has
powerful psychic attacks. What's
he
up?
not seen a Drowsy before?
Uh, you know, I don't think I think he's seen a Hypno because wasn't the Pokemon when all the kids went missing in the park? Um,
The Hypno. Yeah, I
yeah,
had the same. I had the same thought, and obviously he's seen like Abra and Kadabra,
Kadabra.
and I think even Alakazam was Sabrina's final Pokemon, or somebody's final Pokemon was an Alakazam.
Yeah,
But yeah, I was like, has he seen? So if Ash hasn't seen a Drowsy, stands to reason that Drowsy hasn't been Who's That Pokemon. So why wasn't Drowsy the Who's That Pokemon?
And I would probably have to go back and look, but they probably used Drowsy on some random episode.
They're probably right. So yeah, we get Drowsy's explanation. I want to double back just briefly, and it has no bearing on the plot. Just something that bothered me watching it just now. Didn't catch it on first viewing. So in that crate or cart with the Pokeballs, Ash, Misty, Tracy, Officer Jenny were in that crate
Yes.
with the Pokeballs.
Yes.
How in the hell were Jesse and James pushing that by themselves?
I mean, it's on wheels, so you can kind of
I
push
don't
anything.
care. That's 3 kids ish and 1 grown woman.
Yeah. It's a kid show, Doug. It's
I
a
know.
it's a kid show. So
There's a
they
there's a reason I didn't catch it on first viewing. So basically, Ash has to be well, not the audience, because if anybody that's watching this hasn't caught on, they're not paying attention. He's like, Drowsy's controlling the Pokemon. Um, and then we get a line from it's either Cassidy or Butch. I don't have the actual sound on, so I don't know. But like,
Butch.
oh, I guess you couldn't. Oh, it's Butch. Okay, so Butch goes, oh, I guess you couldn't cut it as criminal, so now you're having to work with the law. And Jesse's like, that's what you think. We're only working with her um because she puts up a good looking front. And Officer Jenny kind of has this moment of, oh, come on, cut it out. And Ash goes, you can't be using Pokemon like that. They're our friends, which is probably like the 15th time he said some semblance of that Pokemon are our friends line.
They used a
And
lot of clips for the theme song of the Johto region from this episode.
yes,
Oh my goodness.
yes.
So I'm noticing that as we go through the clips. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you, but it's just so apparent that they're like, okay, they picked like a handful of out of each episode so far, but this one has to be the rest of the theme song.
So Cassidy's like, oh, they're your friends, or they will get Drowsy, get ready to make their friends attack. And he points a finger, and Drowsy starts doing his uh, hypnotic mumbo jumbo, and all the Pokemon's eyes start glowing red. And Jenny sends out Ghastly to counteract, and none of Drowsy's attacks are doing anything. And Butch is like, oh shit. And
Yeah,
um,
Ghastly's just flying through and getting ready to blow up some shit.
and she uses psychic wave. Ghastly does, and as it's heading towards Drowsy, who's not paying attention because he's just doing his own thing. I mean, we've all been there. Um, Cassidy is like psychic power, and he just looks up and just like blocks it and deflects it away, and he's like, "Have the Pokemon attack," and all the Pokemon just rush, and
Another scene from the Johto theme
yes,
song.
and um, Tracy's like, "I never knew Drowsy's attacks could do that," and Misty's like, "They're coming after us. Why aren't we fucking moving?" And all the electric Pokemon are together, all the fire Pokemon are together, all the water This is from the fucking theme song.
I told you.
Jesus.
All
And
of this.
for the second time in like 5 minutes, Team Rocket's huddled together screaming, and Ash has to play like superhero, and he's got his popped up collar, and he's like, "You gotta cut this out," and he's just running, and Misty's telling Ash to stop, which is fucking pointless, and um, Officer Jenny's like, "Go in there and cover his ass, Ashley," and Ghastly gets in front of Ash and deflects all the water and fire and electricity. And Ash is trying to get through to Pikachu. He's like, "You gotta cut this shit. Like, come on, Pikachu, I'm your friend." And he gets on his hands and knees and goes under the fucking force field. So what's the point of the force field in the first place if it's a physical thing you can touch?
For real.
Um,
Well, Ash kind of I don't know if you caught it, but Ash kind of acted like as if he picked up the force field and just crawled underneath it.
well, and that's what I'm saying. What's the point of having Ghastly do an attack if he's a ghost Pokemon, but his attacks are tangible? Like, what are we doing here?
They're not strong enough
And
yet. He's not a hunter or a Gengar yet.
he needs to evolve. I got you.
Yes.
And Butch is like, "Oh, so that's how it's gonna be." He turns to Drowsy and he's like, "Focus your focus your control on Pikachu." And Drowsy's like, "We," and um
He makes
Pikachu.
Pikachu do like a big thunderbolt attack that he did at the beginning of the episode. And Ash gets back up and intimidates Pikachu. He's like, "Is that the best you can do, Pikachu?" Which is the wrong thing. And even James turns to say, he's like, "Why the hell is he smiling?" And Jesse's like, "He's got
Jesse's like, he's
something."
got something up his sleeve.
And Ash runs and he's like, "Catch me if you can, Pikachu." And Pikachu's like, "Pika, Pika, Pika." And Pikachu's trying to catch him. And Ash, and this is the most athletic that I've seen Ash ever in the whole
Hey,
entire series of Pokemon.
that's not fair. He surfed that big ass wave.
Barely. He didn't get up there like the master dude did. I mean, he got up there, but he was in the middle, just like everyone else. But he's doing somersaults. He's on one hand. He's running, and then Pikachu finally gets him and is like Pika, and just shoots him right in on his side. And Ash gets back up and he starts running. And even Cassidy and Butch are like, "Man, this kid's lost it. I think he's enjoying getting shocked," which I think that's a joke in on itself. And
Yeah,
while
I think a different show would say he's getting off on this.
for real, and let's not take our mind off of Ghastly, who's having a really hard time keeping this force field going. And at this point, you would think Ghastly would be putting up so much power that it would be ready to evolve. Like this would have been a perfect scene to watch a Ghastly evolve into a hunter to for this next part of the scene. But Ash runs right over to the command center where he's standing right next to Drowsy. He tells Pikachu to hit Thunderbolt, and Pikachu hits him with the biggest Thunderbolt. Ash gets lifted into the air. Drowsy's like, "Oh shit," because he has that look on his face. He's like, "Oh no, 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 no." And then the whole place just goes up in one big explosion. And Drowsy's like, "Oh, Drowsy, 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 Drowsy." Doug?
As the fucking and again, something I just caught on second viewing, as the control panel is exploding, like we don't know if Ash is gonna make it through this. We don't know what's gonna happen. As the control panel is going up, it's you know, Misty and Tracy together go, all right. Like what the fuck? Like Ash could be dead.
Yes.
Like, well, we'll get our Pokemon back. Um so, Drowsy, like you said, and like we said a couple weeks ago, depending on when this goes out versus some of the other stuff we recorded. If this was a Looney Tunes cartoon, Drowsy would have held up a little sign that said "Mother." Um,
And he would have at that point because he had the Looney Tunes look on his face. He's like, "Oh
yes,
no, no," like they got that straight from like Looney Tunes. Like there were some Looney Tune fans at the end of this episode.
yeah. So we see Pikachu kind of snap out of it, and he's looking around, going, "What the fuck?" And we see all the other Pokemon are kind of looking around. Togepi's not really looking around; he's just kind of looking straight forward. Misty and Togepi run together, and they're reunited, and that's sweet. And
Ash is dead
Meowth,
on the ground, basically.
Meowth, and the rest of Team Rocket's Pokemon are looking around, going, "What's going on?" And Jesse has a sweet moment of as long as you're okay, or as long as you're back to normal, everything's okay. And Ash is all scuffed up because he had to put himself right in the middle of it. And he's like, I knew Pikachu would get the job done. And he's got one eye open. And Pikachu comes running up and they embrace and they're hugging. And you're a power pack, which I don't know what the fuck that means. And Officer Jenny's like, all right, we should probably clear out now before there's any more trouble. And um, Cassie's like, nobody goes anywhere. And James is like, hit him with a smoke screen, wheezing, and wheezing a wee, and we get the Cassidy and Butcher in a coughing fit. Ghastly runs through a gate. Um, Officer Jenny's kind of directing traffic. She's like, all right, get back to your trainer. How do the Pokemon know where their trainers are? I mean,
um,
shouldn't they have all gone back to like the Pokemon Center and Jenny could have sent out a bulletin?
um,
Attention,
maybe they remember their tracks from walking to this building. I don't know. I mean,
they were under mind control.
they were under my control. I don't know. Again,
It's a
things
kid's show.
it's a kid show. So in a realistic world, just like how a dog and a cat can remember where they live, maybe these Pokemon can remember where they live as well.
Oh, that's fair. Um, and Jesse comes out and says that wasn't too bad, twerp. And Ash has a thumbs up, and we see at the top of the tower, uh, Cassidy and Butcher standing there with Drowsy. This isn't over, and she's like, these two don't know when to quit, and she's like, all right, how we battling? And Cassidy's like, it looks like it's gonna be 2-on-2, and Ash is like, it's gonna be 3-on-3 because of the shit you pulled on my Pikachu. Never mind the rest. Well, no, I didn't give him enough credit. He said you can't get away with what you did to our Pokemon. I thought he was just because he's done it before, so I just wasn't giving him enough credit. He's like, you can't get away with what you did to our Pokemon. And Jesse's like, or Officer Jenny's like, all right, everybody, keep your head on a swivel. Just because the device is down doesn't mean that Drowsy's attacks still aren't powerful. And Drowsy's, he's getting in attack position, and Pikachu goes to aim a thunderbolt at him, and Drowsy teleports down right in Pikachu's grill, and Pikachu's like, "Oh fuck!" Um, and Jesse's like, "Arbok, bite attack!" and coming from behind, and he teleports, and um, this was weird. Jesse puts her hand on Ash's shoulder, and she's like, "We'll get him," and Ash is like, "Oh, we will," um, and send all the Pokemon for a tackle, and Drowsy hits all three of them with a Mega Punch, sends them back to the fence, and I was like, "Fuck!" And um, we find out a little bit more information. We find out that Cassidy and Butch are the uh, leaders or the founders of the Team Rocket Breeding Center to make that particular Drowsy that they're standing next to extra strong.
Yes.
And
And they kind of battle back and forth just a little bit, and then they go into like a theme song. So you have music kind of playing in the background, and you have Pikachu getting ready to use a big ass thunderbolt. You got Togepi. Is this the first time that we've seen Togepi do the metronome?
I believe so because I was thinking, um, this is going back probably a few weeks at this point, and they all kind of blur together because we've been doing the specials and we do black and white, and we're doing the Orange Islands. There was a part where it might have even been last week. Now that I'm thinking about it, it was when um, Ash was trying to control the truck that had Lapras in the
Yes.
back, and they were heading towards a cliff. And I thought that was the first time Togepi was going to use its power, but it wasn't. The truck just fall, and they just happened to fall on top of Lapras. But I think this is the first time we kind of find out that um, Togepi's got a little something.
Gotcha. And yeah, Togepi starts doing the metronome finger waving, and they we kind of go back and forth between Pikachu and Togepi, and Togepi stops, and we get a big ass explosion, which is how Cassidy and Butch end up getting away because this explosion just goes
Oh,
boom. Oh
they get
no, no,
arrested.
oh yeah, I'm sorry, they get arrested. I'm so used to Team Rocket blasting off. Um, yeah, the whole build Togepi takes down the entire building, and Officer Jenny's like, "You guys are going back to where you guys belong," and she closes the door and they're like, "Oh, looks like we're being carted off again." And James is like, "Hope we don't see you again." And they better hope that Cassidy and Butch don't rat him out. And to Giovanni was like, "They helped the police." So, but Jesse's like, "I bet the boss won't bail you out this time." And Misty, without missing a beat, goes, "I bet he does."
And it's not mentioned. She said, "Yeah, it probably will because you are Team Rocket."
For real. You want to end the episode, bro?
So, Ash is getting a certificate from the city, becoming an honorary citizen because he did all the work to take down Cassidy and Butch, and we find out that they have similar awards for Jesse and James, but nobody can find them. Um, and we find out that Jesse, James, and Meowth are kind of being like Batman, and they're like, "Oh, imagine getting a reward for a good deed, pa." And um, but James is like, "It would be nice to get some congratulations uh, for doing something right for a change." And Jesse has to snap him back. She's like, "Wrong is where we belong," and we've got a job to do, and
Why
it
isn't
just
Jesse
happens.
and James getting arrested during this whole thing for their past crimes? Just saying.
Yeah, well, that's very fair as well because it's not like um one good deed outweighs the thousands of bad deeds they've at least attempted to do.
I know, for real. But yeah, we see Team Rocket on top of the building, and let's see. Let's see. You've already gone over this part. You've gone over this, and we fast forward over to Ash, Misty, and Tracy back on top of Lapras, and they're all sailing away, and they're on their way to, I think it's called Macon Island,
Yeah.
and or Mikan Island, and they get a close up of Togepi as the scene is ending because Togepi was the real star of this episode because Togepi learned a new move, but Togepi can't really talk too much, so nobody knows that Togepi did what it did. So, but that's it. That was this week's episode, bro.
Um. So Togepi, when it hit whatever it's called, it wasn't really specified what the move was. Misty was holding Togepi.
Yes.
Not like Togepi was still, you know, captured. So does Misty not have an inkling of
She wasn't watching.
she wasn't what the
She
was a
wasn't watching
fucking
Togepi. Nope.
there's a fucking no this Togepi didn't explode. It was just it's a kid's show.
uh,
It's a kid's show.
so, but yeah, on your Dougometer for the week, Doug, what would you give? What would you give this episode? It had a lot going on, but a lot of things were accomplished in this.
It had a lot going on. I mean, I'm comfortable giving it about a 3.5. Mostly because that ending was kind of rushed.
Yeah.
Togepi does the move, there's the explosion, and then the episode's basically over.
They
Um,
had 3 minutes left of the episode, and they still had to give Ash his good old certificate for saving the town. Ash's bedroom should be filled with freaking certificates and trophies and pats on the back, like
his badges um
everywhere.
from Kanto.
So, but yeah, I'm comfortable giving it a good 3.5. I think I'm there as well. And all right, that being said, I did not give it out in the middle of the episode like I have been because I completely forgot about it. But your your Pokemon code for the week is 4MVKTP 4P9ZNW6. And um, Doug, this is a energy card. Um, it's an energy card that you have not nailed yet, but I'm hoping that you can because it's not one of the regular ones. So let's see. Let's see if you'll be able to nail this energy card this time.
One that I haven't nailed yet, but it's not a regular.
But
Ice.
we've come across it a few times.
Ice.
Ice? No, it's dragon.
Ah.
Dragon. Yes. So we have a Ledian, a Trainer Ode Cemetery, a Energy Impact Energy, a Groki, a Mareep, a Rockruff, a Swirlix, a Lapras. Look at that. We got a Lapras. That that that's a great. My reverse hollow is a Larian. Um, and my rare is a Zangoose, a non-hollow. So it is a dud pack. But you know what? We got a Lapras in an episode that had Lapras in it. So that's a plus right there. So there you go, everybody. Do you have anything else that you want to add this week, Doug?
No, I don't think so. This was a fun episode. Kind of filler, kind of important. Um, we haven't run into one of those in a while, so
So, all right. Well, other than that, then go ahead and say your goodbye, Doug.
hi, Doug.
And this is Wrestling Chris G telling all of you tune in next week because we have another original coming for you. Have a good night, everybody.